Hello.
Oh,
Hello.
how's it going?
It's going very well, thank you. How's it going with you?
I'm all right. If you see me moving uncomfortably, it's because I'm smuggling a hot water ball. Like,
I do the same thing. This is like a rare occasion that I'm not, but I do it even when I go outside. I put it under my coat and I'm like, toasty.
so I recently got bought some USB hand warmers, and they were sent to me at work, and no one's told me who bought me them. We found them as a joke, and then someone sent me them, and now I have these toasty hand warmers at work. But today,
I feel like all the best presents start as jokes. And then you're actually like, you know what? It's life changing. Thank you.
it was way too functional for what it, we're currently passing them around between our team who needs them the most of the day. So,
Now they all want them, you see.
welcome to the podcast. We'll get
Thank you
going
so
from here.
much. Thank you for having me.
You're
It
welcome.
does.
Thank you for coming on. I feel like I've known of you for a while as a person, but I can't think if we've ever actually been in the same room together.
I thought you might ask this, and this makes me sound like a huge stalker. But I'm going to continue. We have been in the same room once before,
Okay.
and it was in the Blue Room in the Lincoln Lawns, and it was like a poetry reading evening or something similar. Um, I can't remember
Was
what it
it
was for. I
Witter?
think it was something like for charity, I think.
There was
Um,
I've been to the Blue Room maybe twice, I think. And I think I've been for a play, and I think the other one was a Women in the Arts
that's it.
situation. Yeah.
It was the women in the arts. And I think you stood out mainly because you're one of the only men that were there. And I was like, hey, I was like, same room. So that was the one time I can remember. But I feel like this fits nicely with the topic that I wanted to talk about because
Yes.
if it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't know anything about you.
I mean, that still sounds kind of stalkerish, I won't lie, but but
Now I know you're being kind
that
characters.
does present the question. So yeah, I feel like we're going to have a slightly difficult time, but also quite a fun time going back and forth on the amount of information we won't tell each other about each other.
Yes.
But we'll get to that in a moment because I'm going to start with the first question, which is who are you?
Oh, yes. Hello. So my name is Spadge. I mean, it was a nickname that was unwillingly given to me really when I was 16. So we're talking like almost 20 years ago now. But my real name is Sarah. People call me Spadge because, unlike what Google says, if you Google it, I recommend not doing that. Um, it means sparrow. So it's like a kind of helpful stealing food off people's plates, generally sparrowing around. That's where that name came from. And I'm a copywriter and I write all day, every day for a number of clients. And I also, similar to you, I like collecting things, not necessarily mugs, but yeah, I love collecting knickknacks. And yeah, that's me really.
The thing which I hate doing, which is like proofreading and editing and all the stuff for copywriting, which I avoid essentially.
So why don't you like doing that?
Oh, because I'm bad at it.
I mean,
I
it makes it.
I have a grasp of grammar, but I write like I speak, which obviously means that the punctuation just kind of disappears. And then people get very specific about these things, and that makes me dislike it more because it's one of the few things which I do which my brain reacts like a toddler.
I
Where
see.
someone
Yeah,
corrects me on something, and I'm like, right, well, I'm just going to do it worse then because
because you're a rebel.
I'm a
But I
nuisance.
think that's
I'll put it that way.
okay. And I think that gives copywriters a bad reputation as well, because everyone thinks, oh, you're going to be grammar police. You're going to call me out on all the things that make me self conscious. And weirdly, I work with an accountant who specializes in just working with creative people. And he says he normally turns down copywriters because they kind of pick at his grammar. And I'm like, I am not like that. Like, I think communication is about more than just grammar. I think it's about sharing your story rather than the specifics. I couldn't tell you the difference between a noun and a verb. Like some copywriters are really into the technical stuff like that. I just like writing in a way that touches people's hearts. That's how I would sell that. Yeah. So you can use all the wrong grammar as long as I know what you're saying. You can be a great writer without it being technically perfect.
Yeah,
Does it
I
make
do
you feel
like
better?
it. I mean, it makes me feel better. I think it's also one of these things of so the way I approach creating things is very much along the lines of take what I'm given and then adapt whatever I'm given to the message which I'm trying to create. So like when I paint, it's very rare I'll do anything by the book in terms of painting, like correcting like the right colors, doing a color palette or anything like that. I just throw paint at a page and say, yeah, this is good. This is exactly what I want to do. So when it comes to words, I I do exactly the same thing. Like I've written books which I've never shown anybody, and most of them are along the lines of me just going, well, this is just free thought, and I can ignore all writing rules because this is what I wanted to do at the moment.
I love that. Yes, I applaud that. Keep going. As
But
soon
yeah,
as someone says, I have
yeah.
something I've never shown anyone, I'm like, can I see it, please? Please? No.
I think I've sent like a chapter or two to people, but there's books which I have just on hidden on a hard drive somewhere, which I've just never done anything with because no, no. I mean, I
Wow.
do publish things. I've written comics and stuff.
Do you ever think, like, what if it becomes your legacy? Like, if something tragic happens to you and someone goes through all of your stuff and like publishes all of your hidden stories and you become like the most famous person ever and you'd never know. Do you ever?
I, I I like the idea of being unappreciated in my own time.
I can see that about you. Yeah,
There's a god complex somewhere sitting in the back of me behind this modest face, which just basically just says, "Well, you're the best person ever, Graham." So they just don't realize it
naturally.
yet.
I see. I see. I mean, that's great. Confidence.
I keep that at bay. Behind everything else, it just sits there and goes, "Okay, well,
I
we
need the
might know."
praise, like
You
for
need the
sure.
praise.
100%. I'm opposite. I need, like, if I do something amazing, I'm like, everybody needs to know about this, like, instantly.
I mean, we get that impression. Judging by the ears and the hair and everything needs to come to you,
That's
whereas
it.
I'm fully hiding behind everything I'm wearing.
It's so true. It's so true. I don't think I ever changed my hair without the world knowing about it.
Did you get into then copywriting because you were writing, or just because you just happened to be good at it?
Ooh, good question. English was definitely my favorite subject at school. But I kind of went down a fashion route when I left school. And I quickly discovered that although I enjoyed making clothes and designing clothes, um, the people that were on the course were very different to me. They were very much, I mean this in a complimentary way, really. They were very into expensive things, designer clothes, all the labels. And I was always, I just wanted to kind of mess about and be creative. And, they even made comments about things that I wore. And I just thought, I don't really want to be around these kind of toxic people. So then when I went to uni, I split it with advertising. So I did fashion and advertising, and I was the fastest person ever to switch courses to be completely advertising. It was the entry, like, they do like a speech on your first day, and they're like, this is what you can expect, this is what we're going to do. And I was like, this is what I was made for. And since then, writing taglines, coming up with sales writing, like stuff like that, I was just naturally pretty good. And so that's what I leaned into completely. And I've done it ever since uni, writing, writing, writing. And I love it.
Fascinating. I think as well, like that's a very similar story to I think of what a lot of people have at uni, where
Mhm.
they start a course and you figure out what you don't like.
Yes, yes.
You dive in with a thought of like, this is what I want to do. I want to go and make this thing and do this thing, and then you get there and you realize what everyone else in the industry is like, and what everyone else you'll be dealing with for the next 20 years will be.
Oh,
You're like,
that's it.
maybe not. No.
What
At the
did you
same
do at
time, yeah.
uni?
Uh, so I did film and photography. So I did contemporary lens media
Nice.
at Lincoln Uni, which is a course which no longer exists. So my degree is now defunct. Um,
Oh, I didn't realize it
We
had
got
gone.
eliminated. Yes, they merged it into media production and photography, but that's a so. But again, I
Ah,
very much along the same lines. I went into uni thinking I want to make films. I want to make films, and I want to be, the next whatever Spielberg type thing. God complex kicking in. And I got there, and I realized I don't care about any of the technical stuff, much like I don't care about grammar rules. But everyone else did. There was so many people who were so into cameras and so into every specific detail, and I was just sat there thinking, well, I have the concept and I love the concept, but that's what I love about it. I don't love the detail stuff.
I'm exactly the same. We're about the heart, aren't we?
Yeah, you gotta blend
Yeah, I
out a
like
bit
that.
and dive into the good bit, ignore the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm exactly the same. That's so funny.
Interesting. But I get. I mean, so we're giving away information about ourselves by the bucket load at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you were the same back then, but I feel like we were in the generation when we were at university where like it became a habit to update your Facebook status multiple times a day. It was like Spadge is having a Coke. Like Spadge is gonna like looking forward to going out tonight. Spadge is about to go out tonight. Like there was just so every single detail became like public knowledge. um, and it makes me cringe now when you look back at it, and it's like, why? Why did we do that?
I love getting the Facebook memories.
No, I don't.
It's 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 because I think I love it because I mean part of it's because I love to cringe at myself and see how far you've come as a human being,
Oh, good way
right?
to spin it. Yeah.
And when we went to, like you say, when you started uni, I mean, when I started uni, I think Facebook had existed for maybe a year, and I didn't know about it because I was
Oh,
still on MySpace.
MySpace
And then I
kids.
got to
Yes.
uni, and everyone was on Facebook, and they're like, "You have to be on Facebook." So I was like, okay, join Facebook. And like you say, the first few posts, whenever I get a Facebook memory, every so often one will pop up, and it'll be like, "Graham Calling is eating a sandwich."
Gravers and sugar cubes.
Why do I need to why did I need to tell people about that? Why did I feel that that was acceptable to tell people about
Totally.
that?
But everybody else was doing it at least. So at least we weren't just,
We
solo
we heard
oversharing.
we were herd mentality into this.
That's it. I blame everyone else. We're
End of the podcast, we just blame everyone else. We're not accountable for our behavior.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're the rebels that usually don't follow everyone else. Maybe that's why, because we're just tired of doing what everyone else was doing.
And we're tired, but that's just being in your 30s.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. Yeah.
That's the truth of it.
But do you ever get tired of like having to share everything that you do on Instagram? Like, do you ever think,
Yes.
oh, if I post this, people are going to start bothering me?
I don't think of it that. So I think so. I mean, well, I'm going to round this into some sort of topic conversation. So
Oh,
listeners are
sure.
aware.
Sorry, I'm
I'm
skipping.
not just osmosising this, um, which is the way that we usually go. So when we first spoke, we've thought about talking about privacy because we know so little about each other, and it's.
Mm,
I think we're both very much people who, though we post online, the things we post aren't particularly personal.
agreed.
Like we have different personalities in the sense of you really enjoy kind of public contributions to you and people responding to you. I'm very much I want to annoy the public. If I put something out, it's going to happen, but they can deal with whatever they get when they get out there. But the things we post aren't, like you say, Sarah's eating a sandwich, Graham's eating a sandwich. We never give any of that information away. So being people who've kind of been in creative industries, it does become a struggle
Mm,
of how to balance that. And I think, especially as well, like the roles we have. I mean, outside of my creative stuff and you within copyright, we deal with a lot of information which we're not meant to tell anyone.
very true.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I don't know if we're physically ingrained to do that as people.
Mm, I know what you mean. I mean, I don't know. I think me and you are different in how much we like to. I'm going to say brag. Like
Mm.
if someone gives me a compliment at work, sharing it is good for my freelance career because it means that somebody else might get in touch and be like, "Oh, she must be good at what she does," because I can't actually share the work. because it belongs to the studio that I work for, or I've signed an NDA in some cases when it's a product that's being brought out. You kind of have to just post what people say and hope that people believe you. Um,
Yeah.
but is it are you fully employed as well as I know
I'm
you
full.
do side projects?
Yeah, so I'm fully employed, and then all of this stuff I just do to keep me sane.
My gosh. I mean, how do you find the time? That's so much stuff.
Well, I don't. That's the truth of it. I think this is the reality of me is not to get too psychological, but
No, I love
we
it. Get
I'm
get
very
emotional.
much in the space of this is what I do for fun. This is my enjoyment of life is doing these creative projects, and this is all the stuff which I do. I very much do because if I didn't do it, I'd be the most depressed the person in the world. And it would be fantastic to do it full time. It would be fantastic to have this as my way of employing myself. But at the same time, I see this as the same as someone going to watch the football,
Huh.
someone going for brunch. You know, you can go do those things and you can enjoy those things and have those as like a personal moment for yourself. Whereas me, I sit down and I draw. I go create something. I think about things. I'm reading about what I'm doing next and all these kinds of things. And that's just everyday life for me. Whereas I know obviously across the world that varies hugely. And I think it's one of those balances which I try to encourage more people to engage in
Mm.
because they often forget to do this bit, whereas I'm fully just living in this bit as like a token.
I mean, it's good that it keeps you sane. I think maybe some people are so exhausted from their 9 to 5 or their mundane, I mean, they find it mundane, work that they get home and they think, I just need to sleep or not look at a computer. Whereas I love that you're like, you know what, it's a Saturday. I'm going to call Spadge at 10 in the morning. Like, I love that about you. You're just like ready to go to get your creative fix.
Yeah, I think it's. I think of it a lot like cooking is the best way I can think about it. It's like if
Wow. Yeah,
someone has a 9 to 5 job and you know they might not enjoy their job fully and they get home and they're tired, but they'll still find time to bake on a weekend.
that's true. That's very
And
true.
it's they get something enjoyable out of it. They make something which they're going to enjoy and they can potentially share with people. And I get a strong connection to people through the work which I create. And I think of it very much that way. It's like this will take me an hour, 2 hours maximum. But at the same time, I'm making something, I'm still creating something, and I'm having conversations which further all things within my world. So I think that's important.
Yeah.
But to kind of go back to your original question of if it if it's kind of posting online is something which I find I'm not wanting a response from. I find it very much the other way of I don't expect a response
Okay.
in any way, shape, or form. I expect people to ignore it. And it's only frustrating when I'm putting out so many things and it is fully ignored. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, I could just be making this in my spare time. I shouldn't be posting it online.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So do you
So you,
lose motivation? Because that would make me lose motivation if everyone just ignored me, I think.
no, I don't lose motivation. I think I lose, I don't know if motivation's maybe the word. It encourages me to try different things.
Okay.
I think that's the
You're so
way.
good at putting a positive spin on
Yeah.
things that I would take to heart. Like I need to be more like that, I think.
No, I think I can definitely see where you're coming from. It's very much one of those
Mm.
things of like, let's say if I did a drawing. I mean, even recently, I've recently released my calendar. We'll be in 2024 by the time this comes out. I released my calendar. Each drawing in that takes 2 to 3 hours of my time to draw it, ink it. I have to assemble it. I have to do all the graphic design for it. So you're looking at a calendar which is at least a few days' work accumulated over a few months. And then you put that
Absolutely.
into the world and you say, hey, I'm selling this product because this is a product. And that's the bit which I hate because it means advertising myself. Um, and then obviously however many orders you get back from that can really impact a lot of people.
Mm.
Whereas I think of it much more along the lines of, let's say if I didn't sell this, if I just made this calendar in my spare time for me and got it printed, would I be as satisfied? And the answer is generally yes.
I love that. I love that so much. And you're right. You're doing it because you get the satisfaction of doing a job well rather than how other people find it, right?
It's less
Yeah.
about what the audience will think about it. It's more about the satisfaction you get through the process of creating it. And if anything, I find the end bit frustrating because I'm having to deal with people, I'm having to deal with an audience and having to post about it because if I don't, people will complain at me. And it's that kind of thing of I
Yeah.
always find it interesting when you get a comment which is like, "Oh, why aren't you posting this here?" or "Why aren't you, why aren't you more well known?" So I think because I just don't care about that part of it.
Yeah. That yeah, I can't relate. I feel like you should get as much acknowledgement and credit for your talent as you can. You specifically as well, not just the general you. Um, but if you haven't got the right exposure or the means to like a platform to get that exposure, it for me it feels like a shame because it's such a cool thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, again, do you ever end up on the other side of that then? Because obviously you do post things online and accreditation and all that kind of things of having stuff out there online. Do you fall into the category of kind of worrying that you might be giving too much away or bothering people?
Oh, yeah, I definitely do, and I think
Right.
I don't like that about myself either. Um, like, I mean, it's a bit embarrassing to admit, but like even the Instagram grid, if you think about how many people visit your Instagram grid rather than just scroll through the feed, it's very little, right? But I am quite protective of how my grid looks. So um, I will even come up with an order of how I'm going to post things so that it looks nice once it's posted. And I'm like, okay, I can't post too many of this on one day because it'll annoy people. And I'm like, why am I doing it for other people? Like, I really wish that I just did it for myself because people can always unfollow you. Like if they don't like how much you post, you don't have to follow each other, do you? Um, but I am someone that also notices if my follower count goes down, if I've posted a lot and I'm like, oh, I'm annoying people, I'll stop. And then I'm like, stop doing that because it doesn't matter. Like it really doesn't matter. But yeah, good question. Good question.
Also, it's also I think as well like, with everything online being so behind the scenes, it's incredibly hard to know how many people have actually seen what you've posted. And I had an
Yeah.
interesting conversation with a friend of mine because we were talking about Instagram stories and how people go through Instagram stories or how people scroll feeds. And I flick through it like a kid in the 90s going through TV channels.
Oh my gosh. Do you
I
like,
I'm just literally just letting them like cool, cool.
oh my God.
And it's tapped through and I'm just like I'm acknowledging I've seen the post. If it interests me, I'll click a little further. I'll give likes to things as I'm going along, but I'm not engaging with it
Yeah,
in like a deep way in any way, shape, or form.
totally. Yeah, you're
Whereas
not
I
like
know, yeah,
judging
and
every second of it. Yeah.
I know other people like save them. They'll send them to themselves. They'll like I'm going to pick up with this later and all that kind of stuff. And I never
Yeah.
really do that. But when I do the feed, I do with the feed. I'll save things. I'll go back and I think especially like some people get really upset when someone doesn't view a story or like a post or one of their posts didn't get as many likes as another post. And I
Yeah,
mean,
it's true.
you're dealing with different ways of different people and how they're engaging with. No one is engaging with any platform in one way.
It's so, so true. I don't know if your Instagram does this, but I've noticed on some people's, it doesn't tell you the number of likes anymore. It just kind of
Mm.
says someone and others liked this. I've never had the option to post something like that,
Really?
but I wish that it would give that to me because I hate seeing the numbers every time I look at different pictures I posted. Because, like you say, you kind of get a bit biased, like, oh, people like a picture of your face. Like, I think the algorithm picks that up more. And I don't really like posting selfies because I have clients that it makes me feel weird if like my professional clients just go through and just like photos of me and things like that. I'm like, okay, I don't want to give people that weird boundary issue. So I try not to do that too much. But if you haven't had a lot of likes for a long time, I'm like, let me just post a face because that will get loads of like and you're just like, for goodness sake, I wish that you didn't have to acknowledge these things.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to satisfy it every so often.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly that. It's an addiction, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, I have so I have a secondary Instagram accounts for various things, like my zine, which I do, which is like a community zine. Um, those posts never get any traction. They
I don't
get
think
like
I've seen
maybe,
them.
well, I mean, this is the pure example of it. I've had this account, Null Point Zines, since like 2017. It has a few hundred followers on it. Each
Hmm.
post maybe gets one or two likes. I've never posted a picture of a face on that account.
Mm.
It's always just a shot of the zine and whatever's in the zine. And people come along like, oh, why aren't people liking this? It's because the algorithm doesn't respond to this. It sees the
It's
same
so
shape and
true.
image and says, this guy's just posting the same picture every day. So therefore,
Mm.
but at the same time, I'm like, well, the whole idea of that account is that my face isn't on it
Ah,
because I'm
yeah,
not there. It's just the thing. And it kind of just demonstrates that the platform is in some ways broken on that way.
I
But do you
totally
ever find
agree.
yourself with like an identity crisis of where you, like you're saying, like associating your work with your face and wondering which one is actually making you money?
100%, 100%. Um, and I think so many times I've felt like deleting Instagram completely or different social media platforms completely just to see how much of a difference it would make. But then some of my biggest work, even this year, have been from people that I've met online, even in different countries. And I'm just like, gosh, I don't even really post that much about my work. Um, but I think it just keeps me in people's minds. If a copywriting job comes up, they're like, I know a copywriter. And if I think, thank God I didn't delete Instagram because I've got two of my biggest clients this year just from people following me. It's wild, isn't it? It's wild.
Do you think as well, like, let's say, do you think it impacts how you change your appearance?
Ooh, that is such a good question. I think not in a kind of below clothing level, if that isn't a weird thought to think about. But like if I buy some clothing and I'm like, that would make a good selfie, I maybe do. Or I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to t-shirts. And I love geeky t-shirts that I know other people will approve. I mean, don't judge me on my Bieber jumper.
You're wearing a Bieber t-shirt, for sure.
But like yeah, I really like things that I know other people will like or interact with. I think it's all building your own brand, really, isn't it? I don't, because I might surprise you, but I don't really leave the house that much. I work from home. Um, I'm in the middle of the countryside, so getting a train is a bit of a pain in the ass. Um, yeah, so when I feel like I need to socialize, it's usually digitally, which is easy to put a front on, isn't it? It's easy to kind of be like, okay, this is who I'm going to be, this is what I'm going to wear, this is how I'm going to appear. And I'll clean one room of the house and take all the photos in the clean room. They don't know the rest of the house is a mess, you know. Before the call, I cleared up like I had like all my
I was
Christmas
just about
presents
to
out
say,
there.
like, how much of this is catered right now?
I haven't touched that guitar for probably a year, and it's in every call. So people associate Spadge with like being able to play guitar. Rarely, rarely do I touch it. It's all just a mirage.
And conversely, I just have a cacophony of crap.
Yeah, what is that like piles of paper? I
So
can
there's
see
a
a
mix
keyboard.
there. So there's actually a robot vacuum. There's some negatives which I got recently. I need to scan.
Oh, nice.
There is a COVID test, a sketchbook. There's
Mm,
luggage
nice.
tags. It's basically just where I dump stuff when I come from this way. And then I mean I've got my air conditioner down there.
Oh, I'm so glad you got one. You were like boiling to death in the summer, weren't you?
I was dying, so I haven't
Oh my
quite
gosh.
managed that. But yeah, it's interesting to watch or find out how other people kind of respond to this stuff because I know quite a few creatives who have gone through full on like identity crisis of not wanting to change their appearance because they're worried it will affect their brand.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
And it leads to like a dysphoria of things like that. I mean, I've had the whole conversation. We had this conversation at work recently where someone was saying if I came in wearing like a polo shirt and beige khakis and boat shoes, they'd be worried. And I mean, I
Like, are
would be
you
worried.
okay?
Yeah, if I saw myself in that in a mirror, I'd be worried. But if I shaved my
Yeah.
beard and I cut my hair, would that sell the product which I sell? Because is
Ooh.
that relatable to the messages I'm putting out into the world, or do I have to look like this in order to sell slightly anarchistic stuff?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good point. You're like your style really reflects that, like what you do, like a kind of creative. I was going to say the word gremlin, but I don't mean that in a better. I'm the same. Like I just get into like a hovel, and I'm just like creative all over the place. And yeah, if you shaved your beard, I would be like, "Are you okay? Like,
I
what is
remember
happening?"
I remember doing streams. So I did streams during COVID, which you may or may have not seen.
Yes,
Obviously, during
you, right, okay, I have to quickly tell you this. I'm sorry if I'm going off topic. So during COVID, I don't know if you know, I was really, really ill with it. I got long COVID,
COVID.
and I was one of the first people to get long COVID. I was bedbound, fully bedbound for about 3 or 4 months, and I struggled to even watch the TV because I just had so much inflammation. My eyes became really sensitive. It was basically ME. Anyway, horrible. You popped up on my phone every single day. I think it was at 2 p.m.
Around 2 p.m. Yeah, most days.
2 p.m. You went live every day, and I it became my only source of entertainment because I was stuck in bed. And
Great.
I know that's so weird, but like you were one of the only people doing live streams, and I was
Mhm.
like every day I knew I'd made it to 2 o'clock because days drag when you're stuck in bed so much. So thank you for streaming because I felt so much less alone. Honestly, honestly, they were so good.
I mean, that's very nice because I mean, so that was essentially why I did it because I knew people were stuck at home, and
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable being stuck at home, as is the gremlin attitude.
Me too now.
It's it's something which I deal with fine, and I've been like I worked night shift for 7 years, so seeing people and not seeing people is just not something in my brain. Whereas I know a lot of people really struggle with that, and it's if they don't
Yeah.
see people for a while, and I was like, what can I do in this situation? And it was like as long as I come in every day, it's like having a colleague. It's like having someone you can see, just get a different point of view from, and
That's
just
what you felt
kind of
like. You
carry
felt
on.
like my colleague when I was stuck.
Yeah. Like a
Yeah.
neighbor, which just
Yeah,
comes up on your phone.
totally.
Yeah. What was I saying? But so when I was doing that stream, I was on multiple platforms across as many places as I could be, and one of them was on Reddit. And someone joined on Reddit and said, "Who was asking what I did?" And it's like, "Oh, I do creative stuff, trying not to give too much information away because that's why something I had to really be careful with when
Because
streaming,
it's
because you don't want
Reddit.
to end up like doxxed or anything like that,
Yeah.
or someone looking too far into where you come from." But they said to me, "It's like you look exactly what I would expect an artist to look like."
Oh my God.
And I had this weird emotional crisis in myself where I was sat thinking, do I dress the way I do because I like it and I want it? Or is it because I was sold this as a child and I was told this is what I should look like?
That is
I
a
was like,
weird thought. Have you come to a
hmm.
conclusion?
I continued with what I was comfortable with and
You just like to
maybe got
ponder
slightly
it.
worse.
But I mean, I mean, this is a very personal question. Feel free to tell me to shut up. But like, do you feel like you can hide behind all the hair?
Definitely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I haven't seen my face in years. Um, I think when was the last time I was clean shaven? So the last time I was clean shaven was when I was in uni.
Wow.
And I went to uni at the expected time, college to uni. I didn't skip a year or anything. I
Yeah.
started growing my beard around then, and then yeah, I kind of just delve into that. It's something I'm very easy to hide behind. I don't really foresee a day of me shaving it.
Hmm.
I shaved my head a few years back for
Oh,
charity.
really?
Yeah,
I missed that somehow. That.
it's about 2017. So about
Okay.
2017, I had hair longer than this, and I had had it for 13 years, and I decided to fully shave my head, and I did that, and I was
Wow.
so worried about it
Mm.
because I had never had short hair in years and years and years. And I did think about shaving my beard at the time, and I
No one
could
would
not bring
recognize
myself to
you.
do it.
No. Oh my goodness. How did you find the short hair? How did you feel?
It felt better than I expected. I think
Hmm.
a lot of not to go too personal, but I think a lot of this is when I was very young, I experienced a large amount of bullying um, based on appearance, and it was because I had curly hair, I was overweight as a kid, and I blush incredibly easily.
Oh my gosh, can relate.
It's like a thing. Like I blush incredibly easily. I have very red lips and I have long eyelashes and blue eyes, which led to a lot of criticism from other masculine children.
Oh,
So
I
when
mean, I would
as I
kill for curly hair and red lips. Come on.
I've been told that since child. It's like every woman would kill for my
Oh,
and
I can see how that's
it was like
hard though as a man.
yeah. So it's definitely a thing of just like yeah, I can I can hide behind that. So when I thought about my face and when I thought about my beard, I was like,
Mm.
okay, well, I can't do that because I don't know what my face looks like and I don't particularly want to at this point. But when I shaved my head, I was very worried that it would bring back all those kind of like memories and ideas of being bullied and not really knowing what to do with curly hair as a kid. I feel like,
Mm.
especially for men, there's a lot of lack of information about what to do with your own appearance. So you just kind
Yeah.
of have to figure it out. But luckily, I think age has calmed my hair a little bit compared to what it was when I was maybe, 9 or 10. So
Mm.
actually it went okay. And I had a lot of good support from very good
I
hairdressers.
mean, I
Is
know a lot
the
of
way I
people in their mid-30s that would kill for a head of hair like you. Like, most people are worried about the opposite problem now. So now this is your
Well,
time.
this is my defense when people ask me about why I have long hair, especially older men, and they're like, "Why don't you get a haircut?" And I'm just like, "I've got to enjoy it while I can." Like,
I love that comeback. Yeah, definitely. But you're so right. Your hair is almost adding to your privacy,
hmm,
you know?
yeah.
It's
Whereas
like,
yours, yeah, I mean, you feel like yours may do the same thing, and I don't know if that's a personal
totally.
question for yours.
No, totally. I think I tend to go for brighter hair, or changing my hair to be a little bit more striking if I know I've got a social event coming up because I feel like it's my armor a little bit. Yeah,
I
interesting.
couldn't tell you what your natural hair color is because I've only ever seen you with colored hair.
Yeah, I don't think I've not had my natural hair color. I don't even know how long. I couldn't even tell you. But do you follow my sister, Rosie?
I do, yes, yeah.
So her hair is mostly natural, not far off our natural color. Um, so I wonder if that's part of it as well, because I've always had to share
Mhm.
my identity, and I wonder if I'm rebelling against that a little bit by trying to find my own style and never look like Rosie. Not on purpose, she's beautiful. But it's just nice to be known as which twin you are, you know.
It would be a very odd sentence if you just turned around and said, "Actually, no, I don't like Rosie McDonald," because it's like
Rose's hair is
there's a much
awful.
deeper identity crisis going on here than we maybe expected.
It's so true, so true. But I mean, it takes me so long, and I think, God, I could save so many hours of my time if I didn't change up my hair so much. It's a bit unnecessary, really. Um, and I always think I'll have a break now, but then after a couple of weeks, I think, nope, I want to change my hair color again.
I think as well though, like there's an enjoyment of coming out of adjusting things though, especially when you're because we see ourselves every day. Because
Yeah,
we wake up. When you do something slightly different, there's definitely like an endorphin kick in your brain where you just like, oh, well, this is a different thing for me today,
yeah, it's so true.
which blends into society a little. I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe helps motivate me to leave the house a bit more because I'm like, hey, no one's seen this hair in a while. Because I could quite easily be a recluse. Like I find people quite draining.
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you been in the wilds most of your life then, or is this?
Well, I stayed in Lincoln after uni in the centre, and I was in the centre until 2018. So I only moved into, I mean, I've gone so rural now. Um, the, it's the land of caravans. All the neighbours have like caravans. That's the kind of people that are around. They're so lovely. They're so lovely, but we definitely don't have much in common. Um, I think they see the tattooed, bright haired girl and are a little bit wary of me, maybe a little bit. They're so nice, but you can just tell that, you know, we don't really fit in with the functions that happen
Mhm.
around here. Um, and yeah, if I'd known that the pandemic was going to hit and that travel would be a bit harder for me, um, I don't think I'd have come out here. I think I'd have stayed in the center,
Yeah,
definitely.
I think that's one of the
Yeah.
things which I enjoyed more than I thought I would about moving. Was I mean,
Mm,
I'm from small town, Scunthorpe, moved to Lincoln, been in that
Funny.
whole area most of my life. But when you go to a big city, I enjoy the anonymity of it all because literally nobody
Oh.
cares.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Is like New York the epitome of nobody cares?
Nobody cares. They have I
Wow.
mean, the slogan on the subway is "See something, say something" because they will ignore everything,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it's just a running joke of it doesn't matter what you're doing, doesn't matter what condition you're in, doesn't matter what you're wearing.
Yeah.
Literally nobody cares what's going on unless you draw like full on like try and engage with someone. And I'm speaking to a friend recently about there's like a rite of passage in New York where you are crying on a street.
Oh
Like
yeah.
if you've cried on the subway or cried on the street, and you can because literally nobody
Nobody
cares.
cares. Oh my
And I love
gosh.
that.
I would. I mean, I do love that. I think I would find that hard. I think I'd be the person that noticed. I know you can't interact, or I wouldn't want to interact, but I would definitely notice. Have you been? Have you had that rite of passage yet?
We had that rare passage. I haven't cried on the subway just yet. I've been very
Oh,
hungover on the subway, but again, I felt like it didn't matter, and it
yeah.
doesn't matter what I kind of like wear when I go out because there's no one's going to stop and engage with me on that, and it surprises me when people do. Whereas if I went out in like Lincoln or something and I felt a bit rough, or I'd be very self-conscious of
Yeah. Everyone would notice.
yeah, someone's going to notice. Someone's going to be looking at me like, who's this guy? You know, this gremlin that's walked into a coffee shop. Why is he here? And I mean, my general personality is I don't care anyway, and that's something which I'm quite proud of. But it's very much a different experience city to city, and maybe this isn't all. The barrier isn't needed as much,
Mm.
but
So, personal
whereas
question.
Lincoln is go.
Okay, if um if you're a little bit self-conscious about blushing easily, how is it that you don't care in a good way, but you also blush easily? Because I blush all the time, but it's because I'm so self-conscious all the time of what people think. Do you know what I mean?
When I was younger, blushing was an embarrassment response.
Ah, okay.
Now, it's just because I'm very warm a lot of
Warm,
the
yeah.
time. I've essentially, for lack of a better term, deadened this part of me. So responsive over time and trauma and all that kind of stuff has made this just like I'm very constant. You meet me, I'm extremely constant. That's one of my main traits. Everything else is beneath the surface, but my physical reaction is I've had a pint of cider, therefore I'm going to blush.
Oh, I
I'm too
see.
warm in my coat, I'm going to blush. And
Got
that's still the
you.
physical part which I can't control, whereas the emotional
Yeah,
part I have learned to control over years and years and years and years of just
I totally get you. It's purely physical.
yeah. And
Got
obviously
you.
the beard
Got
doesn't
you.
grow this far up, so I can't fool everyone.
That's true. I have been
One day.
blessed with foundation that covers my complexion, but you'd be a bit judged if you did that every day.
I mean, I could probably do that in New York and no one would care. Just be
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. I love
"What's
to
wrong?"
see it. Love to see it. It's just rare around here.
I mean, to go back to kind of the question of just like public versus online, right? If we're
Mm.
both people who essentially use, for lack of a better term, plot armor, narrative descriptors of ourselves to prevent interaction of anything further, do you find there's a difference with how you interact with people in person versus online? Or are you very much guarded with information in person as well?
Oh, oh, this is going to be such a difficult question to answer because anybody that is in my very close circle will be like, oh my God, like Spadge overshares more than anyone I know. Like I will tell people the most intimate details. I like even if I'm at a friend's house, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to overshare now, but I have a bit of a phobia of closed doors, so I'll use their toilet with the door open. I'm so open with people that I'm comfortable with. But if I'm in a room full of brand new people or people I don't know that well, I am definitely the silent, listening kind of want to shrink down kind of person. And sometimes I have to put on a bit of a front to be, I try to act confident when I don't feel it sometimes. How about you? That's a really good question.
I think I mean, I'm very much I can adapt my personality to the situation I'm in.
Yeah, oh
I
yeah.
can force myself into a public situation and just deal with it. And in my brain, all I have to do is tell myself that I have to do this. If I don't do this, something will go wrong. So, I like you need to go into a shop you've never been into before. I'm like, cool. I have a check mark in my head, which is the one thing I have to do in this shop. Once that's done, it's done. And then it makes everything else easier to deal with because I know that
Mhm.
once I've done that thing, I can leave if I want to. But if I get in and I find out it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, great. We can move on through that. But
Yeah.
I think I'm a bit of a troll with information at times, or I enjoy playing with people in some
Oh,
capacity.
oh gosh.
Because I think information is very valuable, and I'm like this. I actually translate this into my work. So I have such a fear of making artwork which is too obvious, and making
Okay.
something which I look at and I look at it and I think this is just a really obvious thing, and this didn't need to be made. Why did I make it? Someone's going to look at this and think this is dumb, so I won't make it. So I just move on. And so I try to obscure clean information. And I try to put everything behind layers of other stuff and concept based and all that kind of stuff. So when I meet people, I do a lot of the same thing. And I think
Mm.
it's because I think people appreciate information more now in a world where we have all the information when they have to work for it.
Oh my gosh, this is deep levels of I'm not going to say
Tracking.
coercion, but like that, I had no idea that you put so many layers into it like that. That's so interesting about you as a person that you're I think what's the right word? Um, when you're thinking about how other people are observing it when you're making it, like that's such a future level of thinking. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's one of those things of I think I for years I didn't notice I did this. I didn't, and
Mm,
I wasn't even aware I was doing it. And then I was looking at something, and someone had asked me about it, like, what is this? What does this mean? And I think it took me a good 10 minutes to explain the thought process behind everything, and how I'd gone from one thing to another, and then I'd changed that, and I've changed that, and I was like, but it all links back to this one core point. And they were saying, oh, well, I get that now because of like you explained it in the title and everything like that, and that's what I want. I want people to engage with a level of effort, of interest. And I think subconsciously I do that to myself as well. As an example I can give recently of, obviously I've met new people once I moved here and colleagues, and they ask you about your life
yeah.
and what you're into. And I don't have a clean answer for the things
Mm.
which I enjoy because I enjoy so many things. And someone asked me when my birthday was, and I wouldn't give them the date. But
So
then someone else asked me what I'm allergic to, and I said I'm allergic to amoxicillin.
okay.
So I'm completely willing to give away technical information about myself,
I mean, that could save your life, so that's a good one.
which could
Yeah,
save my life, but I
yeah,
will not give you something which the government knows or is on a personal date. Because I'm like, if you have to put the legwork in and go out and find out more about me, you'll be much more satisfied by it, and you'll probably remember it in some way slightly more.
that's actually
Whereas,
so true. I feel like the more effort someone puts in, the more likely they are to remember the reward, right?
yeah,
It's like I can't get over the fact that you know that about people and that's what you put into your work. Like that's brilliant. So how did you actually realize that's what you do? Was it a feeling of when someone says, so what is this about? Did you realize how happy that made you? You were like,
yeah.
yeah.
I think it's very much of if I make something and someone's kind of see, because I always try to do it from 2 points of view. One, I want it to be engaging. I want it to be something that someone can look at and they find it visually engaging, whether it's because they find it cute, scary, whatever. There's that visceral reaction. But I
Yeah.
also want that layer beneath the visceral reaction for them to want to know more, to look at it and then look at the title and go, well, why is it called that compared to this? Because what I'm seeing doesn't reflect this, and vice versa. And
Yeah.
I had such an enjoyment out of watching people problem solve and try to solve the puzzle
Got
because,
you.
and I think it's because I do it so quickly in my own world. If I look at things and I'm automatically reading other layers of what's going on, just
Mm.
on a natural basis, and I realize that not everyone does this, and I think more people should. So therefore, everything I make has to have that layer of just extra.
See, the copywriter in me now wants to kind of write you a tagline that, that is like loves to create chaos, loves to create confusion, like wants you to solve this puzzle. Like, I think that's such an appealing layer of your work that I didn't know about. And I think it's great if you kind of publicize that about yourself. That would be brilliant.
And that's the conflict because I won't publicize this about myself.
Because you
My
don't
tagline
actually
on
care about it.
well, it's because I want people to figure that out on their own. And
Got you. And you'd be telling
like
them otherwise.
my business card
Oh,
on it says art,
yeah.
nonsense, and other bad decisions.
Oh my gosh, perfect. Absolutely perfect.
That's that's all my business card is. It says arts, nonsense, and other bad decisions. It's got a QR code which I think takes you to a website. I can't quite remember.
That is
And
brilliant.
but to trying to explain that to anyone in a quick, concise manner, whereas you obviously we live in a world where it's you have to publicize and advertise and make money from things. I went to an event and someone was like, "Oh, why don't you go network?" And I'm like, "Because I have no idea what to say to these people. I don't know how to
Yeah,
converse quickly. That's why my podcasts are half an hour long."
absolutely. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, like I don't have enough time to tell you who I am.
Which sounds incredibly pretentious. Of like, oh, I'm
No,
too complex for
no.
that.
But I think that could be said for every single person in the world. You can't possibly know someone from a 30-second show reel, even 30 minutes. I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot about you in the past hour, but like, it's taken a lot of very deep questions that I think some people wouldn't have even wanted to talk about,
Mm.
you know?
But again, like we've learned a lot about you, but very little about you at the same time.
What, like right now?
Because your personal information is very protected about your life and what you
The
do
same
on
as
your day
yours.
to
We
day.
only know that you have a November birthday. That's all we know.
I exist somewhere in November and I live somewhere within the world, and that's as much information as people need to know about me.
That's it. That's it.
Have you ever had the thought of because I think this is a conversation which comes up quite a lot of people who do overshare. When you first
Mm,
meet them and they tell you everything about their lives, within 10 minutes, you know their family structure, their favorite food, their favorite film, everything like that. Do you ever
yeah.
get the thought of what's the benefit of you knowing this about me?
I personally don't because
Right.
all of those things change a lot for me. Like if you ask me what my favorite movie is today, it could literally change in the next 2 hours. I'd be like, oh, actually, this film is even better than that. Films are such an interesting one for me because I love films and they change with my mood a lot. Same with color. Like when people talk about dating, they're like, I just cannot tell anyone else my favorite color. Like, what does it matter? What does your favorite color matter ever? And like, if you say, for example, my favorite color is blue, like maybe that's if you're thinking about what kind of color mug you'd want, not kind of what you'd want a whole room to be. I hate that question. I hate that question. Please don't ask anyone that question. Um,
Oh, actually, next. Do you think then as well
Scratching it off your list.
there's like an element there of not wanting people to jump to conclusions,
Very true. Very true.
where
Yeah.
it's like you release information and therefore, like you say, you tell someone your favorite color, your favorite film, they're instantly making assumptions about the rest of your life and trying to apply that formula to the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's so true. Or even if they ask you, like your favorite food, it might not
Mm.
be the same the next day. You couldn't live off that one favorite food forever.
Yeah.
But it does build your brand, doesn't it? Imagine if everyone in the world had one public page on the internet where they were asked these questions and that's kind of what represented them. I guess that's what a dating profile is, literally. Like you're trying to sell yourself in one page. And I can see why people struggle with that because everyone has the same thing. Oh, I'd love to travel. Like, it's like we're not all clones. We're all so different and we have such different important morals in life that don't get spoken about. So this is going deep, isn't it?
Yes. Oh, it's
But,
good.
people are fascinating and you can't learn everything
Yeah.
about them from even their Instagram, which, from my experience, a lot of people I know look very happy on Instagram and aren't happy in real life. And I think that you can't really trust what anyone writes online. So even if you're not a private person, what can you believe?
Exactly. And I think, like you say, I think we're not clones as people, but I think platforms and the requirement to expose yourself online,
Mm,
it gives a reflection of everyone being the same. like you say, it's like your dating profiles, the amount of dating profiles I've been through, which are I like to travel, I like this, and the pictures are all the same. They're a
Yeah.
person at an event, they're a person with an animal, they're a person with this, that, and the
Under a
other, and you
neon
sit
sign.
behind the other side, and you start thinking there's got to be more to you as a human being. You are not this. This is a very, very small part of who you are as a human being. And I think like
Yeah.
Instagram does exactly the same. It's so heavily curated. It's so heavily minutiaed. I mean, mine's an example. I recently made a personal Instagram to separate myself from my work because I was like, I don't need to post all of this stuff, whereas
Yeah,
other
I'm
people
glad you
do.
did. Because, like you say, if you're only posting about your work, you're missing other aspects of your life that people are interested in, I think, anyway.
You're always going to go one layer deep.
Yeah, totally. And just, drip feed it now and then.
Always drip feed. Give them a
But do
little
you
bit of
find that,
information.
do you talk to your family regularly?
Yes and no. We I think this is also a trait of my family. I think
Mm,
we are a very private family in the sense of I probably couldn't tell you when I've spoken to my aunts and uncles in the last couple of years, other than just passing, like they arrive, we say hello, we're very cordial.
mm,
Me and my brother, my brother, we go through this conversation of we will talk and we will talk about very trivial things. And he knows this as
mm,
well. It's like we talk about the things we enjoy, and it's kind of like that line from High Fidelity, which is along the lines of the best conversation you ever have is where you're talking about the things which you just enjoy, the films you like, the music you like, and we'll talk about non-trivial stuff for hours
mm,
without saying anything.
mhm.
And we do that a lot in our family, and I'm the probably the linchpin of breaking that every so often because I know we do that as a family, and I will have a deep conversation with my dad or a deep conversation with my brother, but we don't do that often. That's like once a year, maybe not even that.
Wow. Yeah, that is interesting.
Is it the same in your family? I mean, I guess it's different for you, maybe because you are a twin. And I feel like maybe that's one of
Yeah.
the questions.
It's I would say my family are very similar in the fact that you can almost tell that we're all putting on a bit of a front in a like everything is fine, everything is good. We're not really like even a very huggy
Yeah,
family, but having met other families and they all have like these shared WhatsApp groups and stuff where they're like telling each other up. I'm like, how do you have a shared WhatsApp with your family? If I don't post something on my social media, my family don't know about it because they don't really ask. But my sister is the exception. Me and my sister, I will tell her every minute detail about anything. Um, but I think that's just because we're so similar and we've spent so much time together, even the same uni, the same city. We're still only 20 minutes apart, literally born that far apart, and we live that far apart. So we're still very close. But I find it so interesting at family gatherings. People only ever ask me about things that I have posted, if that makes sense.
interesting. Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? They were like, oh, so you
yeah,
did a wreath making course. And I'm like, yeah, that was like one thing that I posted about 10 things that I didn't that were way more impactful to my life. But
yeah,
you just keep it to yourself. I find that fascinating that our families
yeah,
don't know us that well. I watched the
yeah.
podcast with you and your brother,
Yeah.
um,
I mean, we do it
and it
every
was
year.
very entertaining, but not very deep. Like you say,
It's all
it's
surface
just
level.
so interesting. Yeah.
We like I mean kind of just like you're saying I mean my parents aren't social media people, so they but my mum became more social media to keep an eye on what me and mum were up to because she couldn't get
Yeah.
information out of us because she'll
I
ask us
think,
what we've been up to and neither of us will say anything like yeah no I haven't really been doing much, we've done loads,
yeah,
like
not much.
there's been a whole life lived in the gaps in between seeing one another, but we just don't talk
Yeah.
about it. And we're at an extent where think like people will die in our family and it won't get mentioned until a few months
Yeah.
later. We're like, oh, did you know such and such passed? And I'm like, I had no idea that happened, Mom. Like, you just didn't.
100%.
Yeah.
Or like, have you ever found out about major surgery just because you popped in and they're like, oh yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah.
has just had major surgery on his face, and you're like, excuse me? Like a text would have been great, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, blows my mind. Blows my
And like you say,
mind.
you meet other families who are in, matching pajamas every day and
Yeah,
doing the Facebook updates on sandwiches still, and there's no
literally.
in
Daily
between,
text.
and they
Yeah,
look at you like you're insane, and you look at them like they're insane, and you think, is this how we became?
100%. 100%. So sometimes if I've not been posting for a while, I think I better post something so that my family know I'm alive.
I call it proof of life posting.
There you
I'm
go.
this
I
is the thing. I do it after I've been out for a night, and every so often I'll text my mom, and it'll just be a picture of me, and I'll just be, this is proof of life.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm here. I mean, that must be even more for you because you're so far away.
I mean, this is the thing. If I didn't feel somewhat obligated, I probably wouldn't tell anyone what I want to. The idea of
Yeah,
just existing in the world and not having to update anyone sounds amazing to me.
it does sound amazing to me too. Yeah, I mean, this title, The Privilege of Privacy, is what came to my mind. I was like, sometimes I just want to throw my phone into the sea and it would be so much better. But at the same time, no one would check in otherwise.
It does make it difficult meeting new people, though.
It does.
Especially when it's a requirement to make some sort of level of friends.
And work
And
as well for me. It's been
yeah,
such a big help. So yeah, I shouldn't complain, but it does feel nice to have a bit of quiet time.
it's always important to have quiet time. And if they get information, they worked for it, so they feel better about it, and they feel like
That's
they
it.
achieved something. I'm just giving
Yeah.
opioids to the masses.
Oh my God, you shouldn't joke about that. It's a big problem.
I mean, especially here, yeah, and it is a big
Yeah, I've
problem.
heard
But
really
we
bad
can
things.
give you, holistic opioids through
That's true. Yeah, we're being metaphorical.
conversation, discussion,
Absolutely. They
extra
place a
layer to it
like on
again.
Instagram. That's our opioid.
Yeah, I will do that. I will happily. I because I'm aware of how other people respond to things. I will happily like something because I know it's going to make them feel good.
Yeah,
That's,
absolutely.
it might have not meant anything to me as a post, and this is actually something I find within the creative industry, which is interesting. Is
Mm.
knowing your friends create things and knowing people you meet create things or people you network it with and they create things and still supporting them even though you may not like the thing that they're making or you may not buy
Yeah,
the thing that they're making. And I think
yeah.
that's it's like an extra level to privacy online where you're engaging with the fakeness of it all.
Oh my gosh. When I published my first book,
Mhm.
I sold like 500 copies of it because everyone that knew me was like supporting me, even if they didn't read. Some people said I'd never read a book before, but I still bought it. And I knew the ones that had because there was a picture of my nipples in it. And my boss bought it at the time. And I was like, she's definitely going to mention the nipples if she reads it. And
Mm.
the first thing she said was, I know a lot about you now. I was like, thank you so much. But you're right. Some people support because they care about you and they want you to keep creating, even if it's not relevant to them. Yeah. I mean, I like your work more now that I know your story behind it, that you're trying to be misbehaving.
That's my problem because I get everyone one by one. Right? This is why I
That's
do the
it.
podcast. I've done 200 episodes at this point, so
Yeah, my gosh.
we're very
I
much
used
just
to
like just
listen
get.
every single week, and now work has been so busy, and I can't listen to stuff while I write because I end up typing what I listen to. So I only get to listen to yours when I'm like doing my makeup or my hair, and it takes so much more time to listen to it. So I hope you appreciate the viewage.
I do. I appreciate review. And I also found out a way to get myself freely transcribed. I just give it to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would love to
It
help
can
with
be
that.
more accessible in every way.
Mm-hmm. Anytime.
Definitely happens. But yeah, I don't think there's a clean answer to privilege of privacy
There
in any way.
definitely isn't. And I don't know about you, but I go through mood swings. Like sometimes I'm so glad the internet exists, and sometimes I think, God, I would like a month break. You know?
I think it's
Yeah.
in some ways I think it's easier for our generation because I got thinking about this earlier is that I fully accept I have no privacy online in terms of key bits of information because we gave that all away when we signed up for stuff like Facebook and MySpace and we ticked terms and conditions because we were 13, 16. We were like, yeah, I want this
Take
amiibo of
it.
myself. Yeah. And we just subscribe to that, and so everything we've posted for the last 20 years has been sold to somebody. And I think
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable with that because I'm so protected with my information. And it's like there's nothing I can do about it. It's kind of like the world's ending. At this point, we're along for the ride. And in
You've
person, I
admitted
think that's
defeat.
it's just there, you know. World's over. We're just
Yeah,
entertaining ourselves.
too
Um,
late.
and I think there's very much a level of that. Whereas I think younger generations, they're more aware of what they're giving away,
Mm,
but in some ways don't have a choice
it's
because they're
true.
still being forced to engage with it all. So they know the terms and conditions, they know what they're giving up, they know they're giving their privacy, and they're almost being forced into signing up for it because that's become the new normal.
You don't want to get left behind if you don't.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm so glad
Make
that
it to 30
we,
without Facebook.
yeah, I mean, I do feel really glad that we made it to 20 really without having to live online. I remember rushing home from college and going straight on MSN Messenger. Like I would go literally from seeing all my friends in the day to talking to them all night. And I mean, our typing skills, I think I read somewhere that our generation has the fastest typing skills, whereas the current generation are faster at texting on their phones. We can like type on a keyboard faster than anyone, and it makes sense because of all that MFN.
We were there in Yahoo chat, finding out all the strangers.
Shout out you.
I think that's actually a good point of as well. Like we're fairly distrustful as a generation of
Yeah,
people, and I
definitely.
think it's because we had to learn online, what's the word, etiquette much quicker than anyone else. We were put
Yeah.
into a world where everyone was a stranger, and we all saw things and did things we regret. And there's the internet which exists for that, and we go, okay, cool. So now every situation we engage with is there's a level of I don't trust you just yet. This is
Yeah,
the thing.
cautious all the time.
Yeah. Whereas everyone else after us entered a world where all this information was online and they can find out things. So they're quicker to
Mm.
trust because they can just Google it.
Yeah, although does that make them lazy? Because everything is
It does.
Googleable. We had to
Yeah.
kind of learn to remember stuff the old-fashioned way with hard work, plowing through books,
Powering through books. But yeah, I
hours in the
think
library.
there's also a level of like gullibility to it as well, I think, where because they think all the information's online, they believe it. Whereas we grew up in that generation of knowing stuff was
Yeah,
fake
anyone can type anything, really.
and we don't
Plus,
believe the true things we find out.
that's true. You have to convince us really
You
hard
do.
before we
You have
believe
to be
you.
convinced.
Did you ever see Die Hard 4? This is like fresh in my memory, but that made me so cautious of technology and the fact that like someone had rigged his computer so when you press enter, it was like a bomb. Even today, anytime I press the enter button, I'm just like, I know it would never happen. But it's just like in your memory, it's like technology is crazy. You can shut down cities with it,
I I think the
scary.
film which did for me was 51st State, and there's
I
it's
haven't
a
seen
like a where they like track a guy and he doesn't know they're tracking him, and they do it by like swapping his shoes out, and his shoes got like a chip in it and all this kind of
Oh
stuff.
my God.
And I
Yeah.
think I watched it and I was like, okay, if they're thinking of this now and this is a film, the government can definitely do this. This is a thing.
Yeah.
So I just accepted. If they
And
come and take
they're
me away, and they take me
terrifying.
away.
Oh my gosh. Like, even when you watch programs like Hunted and
Hmm.
CCTV picks people up everywhere, you're just like, you
Yeah,
literally can't go anywhere without being watched. It'll make you super paranoid thinking about it too much,
now we're
especially in New
engaging on the
York.
internet.
There are cameras everywhere out there.
That's why every so often you have to look at the camera and you're like, I'm here. This is all the information you need to know about me. Uh, if I've said anything hyperbolic, I'll see you in 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh. It's so true. It's so true.
I think this is a good point to end on in terms of scaring the public.
Hell yeah.
And
Watch
ending
your
the
back,
discussion.
people.
I have two questions to end this out with. Usually I only have one, but I've expanded it out this year, so I have two.
Oh, okay.
So, okay. So the first one is: so you think about yourself now, and I mean, obviously we just discussed a lot of things. Is this what you wanted to do when you grew up?
Oh, I love that question. 100% yes, but I would say that I didn't know it. when I was younger. I think if I put on paper the things that I wanted when I was older, it was to work for yourself, to work on projects that help either make the world a bit better or are really fun or you really, really are passionate about, work with great people, and have your own schedule. Being a freelancer, I can work in my pajamas and still do incredible work. Like it was always what I wanted to do. And if I won the lottery, I would still have to write, like a bit like how you're saying creating art. Like, and how else could you summarize your perfect job if it's what you'd still do if you were a millionaire, you know? I'm really happy with what I do. I feel very lucky to say that as well. The pandemic didn't really alter, apart from my health, it didn't really alter my ability to do what I was doing every day anyway. So that's so nice. Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I was when I was at the start of the year, I was like, I need a couple of questions to go out on, and I was like, I feel like everyone I speak to, because obviously the people I speak to are generally very passionate about the thing that they're doing, and I like
Mm,
to, I almost feel like it's a check-in for people to be like, is this actually what you want to do? But also for people who have completely deviated from what they originally wanted to do when they were a kid. I think it's like
yeah.
a nice reminder that it's not a clear plan. It's just what you figure out
Some of
along the way.
my favorite people are lost, you
Yeah.
know, and I love that. I mean, even you're saying you have a lot of different hobbies in different places. You're kind of passionate about a lot of things. So just because you haven't got one clear passion, it's almost more fun that way, you know?
You're lost. I'm browsing.
Do you love it as well? You're happy?
I wouldn't say happy, but I'm not
Not
hateful.
going to give us that satisfaction, are
See,
you?
that's personal information. Can't engage with that.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where is the happiness?
I don't. I mean, this is a deep conversation which I've had on other times. Of I don't think happiness is achievable as a
Ooh,
as a thing for me personally. I think content is the goal, and if I'm content,
okay.
then I'm comfortable,
Okay.
and I'm very content. I'm content
I'll
with life
take
at the
that.
moment.
I'll take a high content level. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Thank you.
happy's a bit of a misnomer, but I did a whole podcast on it. You can watch that.
Oh, okay. How long ago was that?
Not too long ago. I think it's called "We Were Missold Happiness."
I know the exact one you're talking about. I'm going to revisit that because I'm interested in this.
But my last question of the day as well is who should I speak to next?
Ooh, that is
It's a,
also a great question. Do you ask everyone that? Or is
I
this
asked
one that's
everyone that.
new?
No, no, this is I
Okay.
asked everyone this last year, and I got a lot of good guests out of it. Because I think as well,
Hmm.
like I was like, I feel like this should be a semi-chain letter-esque. Because then
Yeah, I
even the
love
guests
that.
I get are even more random. I mean, I pick people obviously based on my interest and people I know, but I was like, I would engage with people I wouldn't normally engage
Yeah.
with.
Oh man, I feel like I'm gonna offend people. I mean, for my own personal intrigue, I would love you to talk to my sister. That would be brilliant if you could get the other twin and really highlight how different we are. Um, or maybe we'd be weirdly similar. You would have to be the judge of that.
I think
I
it's
would
for a
like to
conversation. Okay.
nominate. Can you imagine?
So,
Have you had
that'd be,
twins before, separately?
yeah, I don't understand.
Yeah,
Neither
there you go.
separately nor together. Yeah. Right. Interesting. Yeah,
I would
I
love
can do it.
that if you could. Yeah, she's a very creative artist. She's
Mhm.
very passionate about mushrooms,
Mhm.
like to
I've
an
seen those posts
obsessive
recently.
level. Yeah,
I find
brilliant.
some impressive
So
mushrooms as well.
yeah,
Which is
really
just like, I
rare.
don't feel like I could find those in a forest.
I don't know how she does it. Like, because I was walking with her multiple times and she's
Yeah.
seen something that I would have completely missed or dismissed it for a bit of fruit on the floor. Or, there was one called an orange peel mushroom. She was so excited. And I thought that was literally orange peel. Like, I would have walked past it. So she's got better
Go.
eyesight, clearly. That's one thing she's
Camouflage.
got. Yeah, that was,
Okay.
yeah, great question.
I can add Rosie to the list, and if there's anyone else you think of, you can let me know.
Thank you so much. I would love to send you a list of people I think are very interesting.
Do it.
Yeah.
Big, small, I can always try and contact them because the worst they can do is just ignore me.
That's true. That's
I'm
true.
used to
How
it.
many of these do you do a month? Is it one a month?
So actually, that's changing this year. I mean, I will
Oh.
already announce this. So previously, the schedule for the
Mm.
podcast was 3 times a month. I did an episode, and I'd sandwich it. So I would start with a guest, and then a solo, and then a guest and solo, and it would play out. So every month was also kind of slightly different. Some months it'd be more solo, some months it'd be more guest. But
Mhm.
this year, because I want to engage with some other projects which I want to do and have a bit more kind of like time and planning, I'm only doing
Mm.
2 episodes every month, one with a guest, one solo, and it'll be every 2 weeks.
Okay, I like
So
that.
you're one of 12 this year.
Wow, that is great. Yeah,
We'll see how it goes.
really
Thank you for
interesting.
coming on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
Fantastic
having
talk to you.
me.
Hopefully, we haven't given away too much private information, but
I'm pleasantly surprised. Yeah, it's good.
we'll see what happens when we get to the end of that. Okay. Thank
Absolutely.
you for
Let's
that.
see what questions people ask.
And we will talk to these people later.